Set that on record. Okay. All right. And here we go. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Lorena Creole, and this is an audience with the Queen podcast. And with me is a guest who I've been hoping to get on for the longest time. I was actually watching her on YouTube before I even started my own channel on YouTube, and that would be Starry Eyed Girl from all the way over in the UK. How are you, my dear?
Hello, Lorena. I am very well, thank you. And oh gosh, what a compliment. Yeah, I do pop up now and again. I just really haven't got the time at the moment to, go into a YouTube. And lots of people have asked me to. And yeah, at this point, you just kind of got to throw yourself into it. And maybe I will, in the future. But it's such hard. But by the way, congratulations on 4,000 subscribers. That's
Oh,
brilliant.
thank you so very much. I'm still kind of stunned that people subscribe.
No, not at all. You're lovely. You tell it like it is, and people like that. So, oh no, well done to you.
Oh, well, thank you. My niece thinks that it's really cool for me to be on YouTube. I saw her over the Christmas holidays. And if I walk in the door and she sees me and she's like, "Hi, Auntie, how are you?" I'm like, "Fine." She's like, "So, do you have any merch for your channel?" I'm like, "What do you know about merch?
Oh, what's,
What do you have a play button? What do you know about a play
I
button?"
really do. My boy's exactly the same. Because I mean, they spend time now just watching YouTube. And although my boys don't think I'm cool at all because I just talk about Doctor Who.
Uh, Shame on them, but
Oh,
we
mom,
get
she's on the stream again.
it. It's a funny place to be in. My nephew's like, "Let's watch Preston." I'm like, "Who the heck is Preston?" Apparently Preston is like a gaming streamer, and my nephew will just sit there on the couch like, "Okay, you need to do something." I'm like, "Here, play Hot Wheels on the PS4."
Right.
And Stanley's like, "Okay," but he got into it. He really loved it. But it's interesting how YouTube has just kind of, I guess, just changed things from lack of a better term. My brother-in-law's mother had actually seen one of my videos when my brother-in-law was showing her, and she was like, "Oh, is your sister-in-law rich? Because she's on television." I said, "Does your mother understand that YouTube is like the public access so the internet knows it's not a be a
Oh
rich
no,
thing?"
you could have really played with that. Well, actually, what you didn't know is that I secretly won the lottery, and I'd have just gone with it.
I should have. I probably would if I was there. And got to see that. Oh, well, I do want to talk to you about a couple of things. I love talking to Brits. I love talking to Brits. Probably most likely because I grew up in the northeastern US. So I grew up
Mhm.
outside of Philadelphia. So there's so many crossovers there. And I remember when I first visited London, I would get so turned around because I would hear the names of cities and towns and villages. We had the same ones in Philadelphia, but not really. Like someone's like, "Oh, you're going to go visit Kensington. It's very nice." And I'm just like, "Not the Kensington where I'm from. It's definitely not." It's definitely not, at all. We would pass this one town, I believe it was called believe properly pronounced as Cheltenham. However, in
Mhm.
Philadelphia, we call it Cheltenham. So I can always tell when someone is British when I'm like, "Pronounce the name of this particular town."
Yeah. Oh, I know. I've got so many American friends that are just well, you've seen on when I've been on Loki's show, and it was, pronounce this, Starry, pronounce that. It's all just to laugh at me.
Well, we
I
do
love
it.
that though.
Well, we do it to people in the States too. We're like, say
Mhm.
this right here. Oh, well, one of the definitely a couple of
Mhm.
things that I wanted to like, ask you. I know one of the biggest news things that happened last year, not to be a downer at all, because frankly, when Queen Elizabeth passed, it was literally
Mhm.
like someone's, like my grandmother had passed away. And the reason why is because even here in the US, even like with my grandparents, and especially in the southern US states,
Mhm.
they pretty much have more of a reverence for the British family than, like, say, the rest of the country does. And I think it has to do with that during the revolution, they weren't really inclined to rebel against the king because they're just like,
Mm.
we're pretty happy. We don't really have a whole lot of British
Yeah.
troops stationed down there until the revolution happened. Then they all went down there,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's a little different. Her passing, it was really tough, but very very heartwarming to see how many people, especially how many older people here in the
Mhm.
States would talk about her with such reverence. Now, of course, I'm over here across the pond. What was that like? Because she's the only British monarch that I've ever known or known of throughout my lifetime.
Yeah, exactly the same. It's really difficult to explain because on the one hand, in one respect, she's just an old lady, which is everybody's grandma. What's what it felt like. So you got that all that feeling of, oh, she's been in pain, because obviously we didn't find out until very recently what she died of, because we were just told it was natural causes, and then you
Right.
find out later actually she's been in pain for quite some time. And just, yeah, the fact that it's our entire daily life is going to be different. With our money, it's always been the Queen's head,
Mhm.
stamps, um, post boxes. They always have ER on them wherever you go, and now obviously that's all going to have to change to Charles, and it's gonna take some getting used to. But I do remember on the day, it was my son that told me it had come up on his phone. And I didn't believe him at first because there's this trend, isn't there, especially on social media, where people have said
Right.
celebrities have died, and I know she was unwell and she was in Balmoral, and then obviously reports came in and it was on the BBC, and I just completely stopped. Everybody just stopped, and um, it was absolutely awful. Yeah, it reminded me so much of when my nan passed away
Mhm.
during lockdown. So all that came back, and we got the reports that not everybody arrived in time to see her, and that really struck a chord with me, because exactly the same with so many people in lockdown. We couldn't go and visit. You just the restrictions.
Right.
Um, and yeah, and then the following, it just didn't feel real. It just felt like everybody was in a bad dream,
Mhm.
and it's very. You'd have to go a long way to find somebody that doesn't like the Queen. Other royals aside, the Queen's the Queen. Everybody, even people that aren't royalists. The Queen's an institution. She's always been here, and there is this worry of, oh gosh, what's going to happen, because obviously prime ministers and presidents come and go and all that
Right.
kind of. She's always been there, but yeah, the world hasn't ended yet.
No.
And
No.
just the outpouring of love from everywhere, especially everybody across the pond, across the Commonwealth, and just you get when you get Putin giving you like messages of condolence, it's
Mhm.
a bit surreal. But yeah, everybody respected it, and it was, in a weird way, it was kind of nice that we weren't going through it on our own as a nation. Everybody was there, and then we had the funeral. I did try. I was thinking about going down to go and see a line in state, but obviously the queues were just
They were
insane.
nuts.
Because I'm in the north of England, so I'm about 200-300 miles away from London,
Hmm.
and just with the kids as well, it just wasn't going to happen. But I appreciate those that day that and again people came across the world. It was insane, but in a really good way. And there was a lot of good, a lot of unifying
Hmm.
that came out of it. But yeah, sometimes it doesn't feel real. And obviously, we haven't had the changeover yet, so we still got the Queen on our money at the moment.
Hmm.
I think that's when it's going to sink in. When we get the coronation and this changeover happens.
Right. Mm.
Yeah, it's weird that life goes on, which we know it does when people die, but that did feel like a real stop and reflect kind of moment. Um, I would say probably the closest thing that
Hmm.
you would have had would have been, like the assassination of Kennedy, or 9/11,
Yeah.
them kind of things where everything just stops and you all come together. But again, I can't be too. So she was 96. That's an amazing age.
Yes, it was. And she had lived through so much. It seemed like every major event that would happen, in the world, I would always hear something, hear her associated with her. When she came to like visit America, it's like everything just stopped so people could see her. The whole funeral was beautiful. I watched that from beginning to end.
Mhm.
But one of the things that will always stand out to me is the fact that her casket was taken away by a Jaguar with see-through
Oh,
glass.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
literally stopped. I'm just like, wait, they make those? and
But yeah,
and someone told me, they said, well, she's been planning this for quite some time. I'm like, yeah,
she had
she is
she had got she
96.
had got
So
everything.
I said, wow. That was a moment when I was just like, yeah, that's some serious style right
It
there.
was. What got me was I was kind of okay until we got to Balmoral and you saw a pony, Emma, and then the corgis, and
Hmm.
them corgis know that those animals know, and that was it. I just doesn't mind the people. Like as soon as I saw the animals, I was like, oh God, they're never going to see her again. And then everything at the end, and when Charles snapped that cane,
Hmm.
and the crowd, and you got that kind of finality to it, and props to him for just what a long day that
Hmm.
must have been, and having the cameras in your face the entire time. They all did um fantastically, and they all behaved, even yeah, even
Oh,
those.
yeah.
Yeah,
Speaking of behaving. Hmm.
I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm glad there was the respect there. But again, you just think, gosh, that was only September, and so much seems to have happened since then. It's been an interesting end of the year and start of
Very,
this one.
a very, very interesting end of the year. Indeed. So the other thing that I'll talk to you about, of course, I'm going to bring this up because people are going to ask about it. And of course, there's the whole Harry and Meghan thing. I have to apologize for the fact that Meghan is even over there. And yes, it is true. Meghan Markle is a distant cousin of
Yeah.
mine. She actually is by probably like 200 years through her father or whatever. But I just cannot believe the amount of disrespect that I've seen from her towards the royal family. Now, there's a lot of Americans like myself who are just like, you know what family you married into, right? You do know this, that there's a certain way of doing things that you're expected to do
Mm-hmm.
and expected to behave, which is why there's really not very much sympathy here, at least it seems to me, for her. And neither do we want her. We don't want either of them. We just don't.
Well, we don't want them either. So the kind of stuff. Well, yeah. Well, yeah. What can I say? I think a lot. I can only obviously I can only kind of speak for myself and the people around me. But yeah, we are just fed up of her whinging and um, just the whole racism thing. You know, I paid towards that wedding, Lorraine. Okay, lots of
What?
people did. It was, but it was funded by the UK taxpayer.
Oh,
Yeah, so then
yikes.
when you get to when she says like your entire country's was racist to her, like really, Megan, really? No, it was exciting. We thought Harry had found the one. Um, I thought she was beautiful. I'd not seen suits or anything she was in, but
Hmm.
I would just most people would just, oh, we're glad he's happy because he was kind of like the party animal.
Yeah.
William's kind of always been the sensible one, but it was Harry was very popular, and I said that was because it really isn't.
Yeah, was.
It was kind of even kind of questionable things he did. It was kind of, oh, it's Harry. He's only young, and it was almost kind of, I wouldn't have said celebrated, but it showed he wasn't just this hoity-toity person. He was going to parties, he was having raves, he was misbehaving like a normal young
Hmm.
man of his age was. And again, that's part of the appeal of William and Harry, was they did have this kind of, yes, they were royals, but they had a more, I mean, obviously it wasn't completely every man, because they had to have security and everything, but it was, the more in touch with the real world than some of previous generations. Well, so
Hmm.
we thought. Anyway.
Yeah, so we thought, and I'm just like, what happened to
Mm,
Harry? Because, like you were saying, I knew
mm,
him as he was the party guy. William was the more responsible one.
mm,
Harry was just like, I just want to party, and it seemed like he was here, there, and
mm.
everywhere, and just had this larger than life personality that even for his screw ups, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, but we still like you anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Um,
then he marries Meghan Markle, and we're just like, where
mm,
did he go?
yeah, it was really weird. I mean, I don't really follow them as much as other people, and my mum does. My mum's a real, royalist,
Ah,
and she is, just absolutely disgusted, really. Again, and I think this is a thing. It's getting harder and harder to defend him because a lot of people have said, "Well, this, that," and it isn't just Harry. It's all Meghan, and I think it is. But I also think she's enabled like the worst aspects of it. I don't think it's completely her, but
mm-hmm,
she's definitely not her. When you get married, you find your soulmate, and you're supposed to bring out the good in one another and bring that balance. And uh, I do think he's mentally ill, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I think he's obviously not been right since Diana died, which you wouldn't be, at 11, 12 years old.
yeah,
I don't think he's ever got past that. I think he's got a lot of grievances, obviously got a lot of anger and resentment, and
mm-hmm.
God knows what this therapist is doing because they don't seem to be helping him. it's just getting worse. And I do think, and I don't even know why I'm laughing. I think it's just because it's so ridiculous. It's a serious subject, and I do really feel for him. But I also feel like this kind of second-hand embarrassment in a way because it's playing. They shouldn't be playing out in the tabloids and in public and on the internet.
Exactly. It is it's just like it's why go like on Oprah? Why go on this press junket to talk about, all of this stuff? And it's to the point where I've never really watched it because I'm just like I'm not interested in saying that, because you see the body language, the dynamics between the two of them,
Mhm.
and it's just like something is definitely not right. She seems to be more the controlling type, basically
Yeah.
controlling what he can do, where he can go. And it's like he's not the same Harry. And we're getting like all this animosity towards the royal family. We're just like, even if that is the case, why are you airing your dirty laundry in public?
Especially after the big song and dance of "We're moving to America for our privacy." Um,
Hmm.
because everything,
And they moved to
everything,
California of all places.
yeah, I like, yeah, that really secluded area of California, and just everything's photographed, videoed, logged. You
Hmm.
can't just go out and, um, when they said they wanted to leave, fair enough. If that's how you felt, you felt you were unhappy. Um, we wish them all the best, and that's what they wanted. It was sad because you felt like they had to go away, but you do what makes you happy. But then when it started, oh, we left because the Brits were racist to Meghan and invading us, and I can't talk for what happened in the royal family. I assume there were arguments. I also think she was the instigator of a lot. It doesn't sound like she was very nice, uh, bullying staff, and I
Hmm.
would love to, because they've all signed NDAs. I would love to find out what happened, but I think we can guess. Yeah, but then when you get this, oh, and we've done this and we've done that, and we're going to have this interview and a podcast, and I'm like, oh, and a book, and our Megan's going to do a book as well. And I'm like, she was only in that country, Lorena, for about 18 months. I like,
I swear, the more I hear, the more just like embarrassed that I get, because culturally over here, or I'll just speak for like my family and where they pretty much grew up. The big thing was like, if you ever get the chance to go before royalty, that was a big deal. You had a special set of manners. You went over there with a certain expectation. You do not go over there, especially going to a foreign country, and insult your hosts. You do not. That's not something, that you do. And to see her repeatedly do that, it's like, what would I would call it? It would almost be like your parents saying, we brought you up better than that. And that's pretty much the whole attitude. And then when we'd hear from her about, well, oh, well, the Brits are racist, and supposedly someone from the royal family remarked on Archie's color. I'm just like, and what? I mean, my parents, like, I have biracial nieces and nephews. Of course, people aren't blind. They're actually going to remark on that. It's
well,
nothing.
but
It's a curiosity. It's a
it's
reality.
nothing unique to them because
No.
no matter what you look like, everybody's like, oh, I wonder if they'll have your eyes. I mean, our biggest thing would be, are they going to be ginger? Let alone the skin color. Just that's what I'd be thinking. And you know what? No, honestly, I didn't even know that she was biracial. I just thought she was a bit fantastic. Really did. Because it was honest. It was never brought up. Really, the average person on the street just like she's very glamorous. Beautiful hair, beautiful skin. She's got a bit of a tan. I never thought, and then suddenly I was treated differently because I was a black woman. I'm like, what the hell?
You know what? Okay. It's like granted, I've been to Europe several times. I've been to England several
Mm,
times. The only
mm,
thing I've just had people remark one of my accent, for some reason, people wouldn't believe I was American. They thought it was Canadian. I'm like,
mm.
no, really, I'm American. Oh, you're Jamaican? No, no, really, really, I'm American. And, you don't believe it. I mean, I didn't feel discriminated against, at all. Any discrimination that I did get, and this is the God honest truth, actually was from a biracial chap. We were on the underground, we were on the tube, and he was a conductor, and it wasn't towards me, it was towards a Nigerian man who was standing next to me. So he was very cordial to me, but
Mhm,
extremely rude to the Nigerian next to me. And I'm just like, okay, I see this is about class when it comes to you.
mm,
Still disrespectful, in any way, but that was the only thing that I ran into. If anything, if I talked to like other Brits that I ran into, they were just curious. It was nothing rude, about it at all. They just wanted to know where I was from. Like the story that I'd heard about, I guess she was a lady in waiting.
yes, Lady Hussey. Yeah.
Yes, I read that and I said, you've
Mm,
got to be kidding me. Has this woman been around any older people when they ask? It's like they're not being rude. Sometimes they just don't have a way of asking things
mhm.
very tactfully. It's like there was nothing racist about her asking you where you were from. So I
It's
don't understand that.
it's just another. It seems to be fashionable to attack the royal family.
Yes. And it
Um,
didn't used to be that way.
and it didn't. I don't quite. And I know, elephant out of the room, Andrew. Yeah, there's something that I can't condone him whatsoever.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but he was the son of the Queen. I mean, I think Charles in his coronation. I don't think Andrew's part of it at all. It's like done. He's no longer a working royal.
Mhm.
Um, that yeah. Um, I can understand that, but did you just want to destroy the entire family over one bad apple, and now possibly two?
Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew's a whole other thing, and it must have broken, the Queen's heart.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just like trashing. It's outdated. And what gets me is there's people in our country that think this, and to me, it's really dumb because nobody really comes to England for the weather. Let's be honest. It's
Nope.
not. We are not an exotic country. People come for the royal family. They want to look at the castles, the palaces, the cultural thing. The royal family have become more about kind of like tourism than anything else. They bring so much money into the country. We would be screwed without them, honestly. They are, but we haven't got, we have got some wild animals, but you know what I mean. They're in zoos. We haven't got that. We're not in Africa. You can't have a safari. Um, this is the thing. This is what people want to see: the crown jewels. They want to see Buckingham Palace. Um, it's so important, and to not have them would be it would be strange, but I do think it would be a real detriment. And I don't think people really understand like what they do. All of them, they have things. Because obviously the Queen
Mhm.
physically can't get to everything. Everything gets delegated. We have a lot of links with other countries because of the royal family. They perform a diplomacy. thing that not always our politicians can do, because obviously politicians now are very what's the word? Can't think of the word now. I've gone blank. Very polarizing. I mean, it's
Mm.
it's even worse where you are. But
Oh, tell me about
we have we have our moments as well, like Brexit. Everything's so supercharged, and they fulfil this function, and half of it you don't even hear about, because unlike Harry and Meghan, it's not recorded.
Mhm.
It's not newsworthy to be put in the newspapers. But all this thing goes off, and yeah, and it is. They really are the backbone of our country, and I really don't, especially the younger generation, don't seem to understand that it's not just a case of there's just this one family with King Charles at the head and he's sat
Mhm.
on a load of money. It isn't that's a really simplistic way of looking at it. It's, oh yeah, it's okay, he has got money, but they also bring in a lot of money, so it's kind of like a partnership. And I'm really oversimplifying it, but yeah, I don't know, it'd be like you not having the White House, or maybe that's maybe that's a bad analogy. No.
Is that it's like I get it. It's like I'll say it from my point of view. Like I
Mm,
remember one of the things that I wanted to do when I was in high school was I wanted to study abroad. I was going to go to London. I was going to study abroad,
mm.
but unfortunately, that's when the IRA was bombing everything. So my parents were like, "No,
Yeah.
you're not going," and I was
Mhm,
so upset because I wanted to go. And it's just like, why? Because of all the history, especially if you're a student of colonial history in the United States.
mhm.
There's certain sites that you want to see in England, like you want to
Yes.
see Parliament, you want to see Buckingham Palace, you want to see, all of this stuff and all the other environs that a lot of
Mhm,
those who came over here and were instrumental in the revolution kind of like go and where find out
mhm,
where they came from and where they were. So I know for me, I told my family, I was like, I'm gonna find the cheesiest souvenir with the queen on it that I could possibly find. And they were like, find this, find this, find this.
Yeah.
My mother was specific. She said, take pictures of
Mhm.
Buckingham Palace where the queen lived. So I had a directive, to go. So I went to Westminster. I went to the Starbucks in Westminster, and then walked down to Buckingham Palace to check it out because it was just like here in America we do not have. Let's put it this way. Well, I guess we do now. If you want to talk to the politicians, they think that they're royalty. You have governors who think that they're a
Mhm.
monarchy when they are not. But since we do not have one here, but there's a lot of common customs, it's like going to see your cousin's house and going to see all the stuff
Mhm.
that that they do. So it's always this thing of like, go over, we go see the royal family and do all that. And it's not spoken in a very disparaging manner, because even after the United States became the United States, in the South, there are very many customs that were held over from the time when the British were here, and they're very tried and true customs. There's much more of a formality that's here, especially in the South. Even considering, like, say, tea culture in the North, they don't have it. They don't.
Yeah.
It's coffee. In the
Coffee. Yeah.
South, it is considered to be rude not to serve guests
Mhm.
brewed iced tea, sweet
Oh,
iced
really? I didn't
tea.
know that. Yeah.
Yes, yes, it is. If you brewed iced tea, I say iced tea because all iced tea in the South is sweetened by default. It has to do with the
Mhm.
sugarcane industry.
Yeah.
You are expected to provide that on demand when people visit. Not even on demand. When they come to visit, you provide them with sweetened brewed iced tea. That is expected.
I love that.
So that is one of the holdovers in the South. It's
Mhm.
just if there isn't any, there's iced tea, and then there's brown water. That's like unsweetened whatever for people who just don't,
Yeah.
don't deal with that. But yeah, it's a shame because with the royal family, it was kind of one of those things where we're glad we don't have it, but we respect it for what it is, you know. And it was never something to really be talked down upon. But I don't know if it's because now you have people who will have, say, a certain class of people who want you to feel embarrassed about your history
Mhm.
and about your country. Like here, they're like, "Oh, well, you should be ashamed to be American." It seems like in Britain, "Oh, you should be ashamed to be British," and you know, the Queen. They were all colonizers, and it's just like, where really is all of this coming from?
It's yeah, and it is kind of part of that woke movement that's doing it. And even worse now, they're trying to revise history. It's like, well, no, history happened for better for worse. We can't change that, but that's who made us. We learnt from that. If you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat the same mistakes. And what a lot of people don't know is that Britain was the first to abolish slavery. The Royal Navy had this big crusade, in the African nations and all that. And again, we had a thing a few years ago. There was the founder of a town called Bristol, and I'm blanking on his name. And he was a slave owner. Colston, that was his name, and he founded the town of Bristol. But he also set up a number of charities, did a lot of good, and these activists decided to just pull the stone down, pull the statue, and dump it in the river. And that was, that's gonna, stop everything and make everything better. That's gonna pay for colonialism just wrecking. It's the same for you, same thing over there. BLM. Let's just destroy a lot of things, because that'll make things right.
That's exactly it. They're like, let's pull down the Confederate, you know, the Confederate statues. And like, for what? What does that change? What happened? If anything, it should stay there to remind people of what happened. Like you said, if you don't know history, you're doomed, you know, to repeat it. In St. Augustine, Florida, which is basically the oldest continuously occupied European city in the Americas, not Jamestown. It's actually, well, as soon as Florida became a state,
Mm-hmm.
that honor went from Jamestown to Saint, to Saint Augustine. And there's actually a monument there that was paid for by the widows of Confederate soldiers at the end of the Civil War, many of them who had died away from home.
Mm-hmm.
So they had put this monument there. Well, the town said, "Oh, we need to take it away because it's a reminder of slavery and X, Y, and Z, and it shouldn't be there." It's like, well, if it's not there, then people won't know what happened,
Exactly.
and you just get to tell the version that you want to tell. But the city capitulated and decided that they were going to remove it,
Mm-hmm.
which made absolutely zero sense. You just want it moved because it hurts supposedly your feelings, but yet my relatives who grew up in the Jim Crow South when it was racially segregated
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a problem with that.
But this is it. It's not the people that actually experienced it. That have the problem. It's people now. And it's really bizarre. I don't know if you saw this story. I think it was just this week. There's a family who want Benedict Cumberbatch to pay reparations to them. Oh,
In Barbados,
yeah. And there's a little random fact for you. The UK taxpayer, that spent a lot of money. We've pledged to abolish slavery. And it took hundreds of years, it took generations. But the national debt that we accrued, we only just finished paying it off in 2015. But by
yes.
all means, ask Benedict Cumberbatch to. And it's just, well, when's it going to stop? Are we going to turn around to Norway and all, the Nordic countries? So, we want reparations from all the Vikings that came and
Mhm.
invaded us in the Middle Ages. Just ridiculous.
It's just insane. I mean, over here they talk about doing that, and it's like, okay, well, let's be realistic. If you're going to do reparations, how are you going to do that? How are you going to decide who gets what? How do you decide who's going to be eligible for what? And I said, here's another one. Am I going to be eligible for reparations considering how many slave owners in my family of all colors? I mean, am I completely
Well, this is
disqualified?
the other thing. This idea that slavery was just one color, one race. It's really there were slaves from all cultures, all like you were saying. Black families had slaves, white families had slaves, white people were slaves, black people were slaves. Um, yeah, just and like you say, who gets the job of deciding?
It's one of those things where I think when some people, because I've heard the argument, they're just like, well, there were white people that were slaves too. It's like, okay, that I will say outside of America, it's like that was true. But considering the United States, it's like, well, even before the United States, when it was just Britain, a lot of them came over as indentured servants. So it's like they did their time, as one of my ancestors did. He came over like literally from Ireland, like
Mm-hmm.
1620, worked for 10 years, became a free person. And then he was entitled to participate in society, as opposed to, like, say, the chattel slavery system, where there was no way out. But you also did have Native American slave owners, you had Black slave
Mm-hmm.
owners. Some of my family were that too. So it's like, what is it? Am I going to have to wind up paying reparations for that? I think the whole thing with reparations is the only people who I think who are actually going to get money from this are the ivory tower people who get to
Yeah.
write all of the studies, and then no one gets anything. And I honestly think that it's a lot of it has to do with people who think that society owes them everything. It's not like you cannot participate in civil society, like, say, my
Mm-hmm.
grandparents did for a certain point in time, who went through way, 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 way more oppression than I did. And you're right about in 2015, because when Britain abolished slavery, in a way, it's like they did the right thing. But it's like, if you look at it economically, they didn't want what happened in Haiti
Mm-hmm.
to happen to their colony. So, one, it was the right thing to do, but also the smart thing to do, considering what was going on, because
Oh
that
yeah,
was
there
a
was always
very real thing.
there was always more than one motive. There weren't angels by any means.
It's like, it is what it
No.
is. Look, this is what we this is what we had to this is what we had to do. And like, there were some of my ancestors who they left the US right after the Revolutionary War. They were just like, we can't stay here. So they just took everything and left. But yeah, with reparations, honestly, I think if it wasn't for the fact that Benedict Cumberbatch is famous, you wouldn't
Yeah.
have heard anything.
Oh no. But again, it's that celebrity that makes the news. And again, it's just this perpetual victimhood, and again, just getting sick and tired of it. I'm not denying that there are genuine victims out there, and they're getting overshadowed,
Hmm.
by all these grifters. And it's happening in our country, it's happening in your country, it's happening in all countries. It's I was like, when's it going to stop? You're getting to the point where I'm going to out victim you. My
Hmm.
pain's more than your pain.
It's people are just gonna have to just push back and continue to push back. It's just like, when everyone's a victim, no one will be. It's like,
Mhm.
is that what's gonna happen? I think about, my parents and grandparents who lived through much worse. It's just like, come on. They weren't complaining all the
Mhm.
time. They had legitimate legitimate issues, but they were just like, you
Mhm.
know what, I have a life to live, I have a family to provide for, and I have a God to serve. So that is more important than whatever grievances people are putting out. Not to say that they're not all, that some of them aren't important, but this whole thing of, like you were saying, I'm more of a victim than you are. It's just people are eventually just going to have to say, you know what? No, you don't pass the litmus test for being a victim.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. And again, it's not going to end until people stop making money being a
oh,
victim. Go
yes.
around full circle now. I went,
And this is so not new, because again, I always tell people this. Booker T. Washington, who actually was a former slave, actually helped found Tuskegee University. He had an autobiography that he wrote, and he had a quote that said, "You have a certain class of people who are invested in another's misery." And he was talking about grifters and race hustlers back in like 1870. And you'd read some of the stuff. It is fascinating to read. It's just like a lot of this sounds like, what's going on today, but it's just louder, you know, than it is. But yeah, we got to push back on that, because eventually people will start tuning that stuff out and they're like, I have other things to do. Because speaking of other things to do, I need to talk to you about Doctor Who, actually.
yeah.
Now, I'm completely facetious about this. Doctor Who was one of those science fiction shows that I did not watch, but I had friends who would
Mhm.
watch it. So I knew of it, but hadn't really gotten the idea to sit down and watch. And no, I'm not embarrassed for saying this, until I saw Matt Smith on House of the Dragon.
Well, you've got the perfect jumping on point because the Matt Smithy was kind of a soft reboot, so you could just start with Matt Smith. You ain't got to worry about everything else that came before. It kind of just explains everything. But yeah, oh, he is lovely, Matt Smith. See, it's another unifying thing. Appreciation of Matt Smith. Um, yeah, see, I haven't watched House of the Dragon yet, but I wanted to because I love Matt Smith, but it was the whole Game of Thrones thing, so I thought, well, I'll just wait and see what it's like. And I started hearing good things, so I am actually I'm going to buy a physical copy, and I will watch. But yeah, I'm just so burned about everything, and when you've only got so much money, you've got to.
Yes.
You can't stream everything. You can't. There's a limit, and companies aren't making it easier now. They're stopping password sharing and all that. So yeah, so I've just kind of had to prioritize on things, but it's definitely on my watch list for this year. So yeah, so we'll have to come back, and I'll have to tell you about House of the Dragon, and you'll have to tell
Yes.
me how you found Doctor Who. Yeah,
We really are going to have to do that, because
yeah.
it was just because like you, granted, how I found out, but I was late to the Game of Thrones thing, because
Mm-hmm,
I said it can't really be that good, right? Okay, I'll just go and
mm-hmm,
watch Vikings. So I was watching Vikings instead, and I wasn't into Game of Thrones, but I kept hearing about season 8 from so many people. It was like a whisper, and then it
yeah,
became a roar. And I'm
yeah,
just like, how
mm,
could this series that everyone was so invested in turn out to be so bad? So I basically binged seasons 1 through
really?
8,
Yeah,
because I said I have to see when the wheels fell off the proverbial bus. I mean, they kind of started wobbling around season 5 and
mm-hmm,
really wobbling around 7. And then by 8, the bus completely exploded. And I'm just like, this is how you end a series like that. I said, I could not believe it. Now I could see exactly why people were so upset about it. But I'm a House Targaryen fan. So as soon as they announced House of the Dragon, I'm like, ah, shoot, okay, I guess I'm really gonna have to watch. I'm gonna have to watch this, but very skeptical because considering what happened with season 8, I'm like, am I really going to like this show? So I actually sat down and I watched it and was hooked from the first episode. And I have to thank Matt Smith for keeping me watching, because listening to Matt Smith when his character is introduced speaking High Valerian with so much inflection and passion, I'm like, okay, all right, I have to pay attention to this guy.
You're like, swoon.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm like, who's this guy? I'm like, I need to find out who he is. And somebody was like, well, oh, you're just finding out about Matt Smith. I've always known who Matt Smith is from Doctor Who. I'm like, well, excuse me, I'm going to have to go watch Doctor Who now because I had zero interest before. But his performance is so good. I mean, crazily good between him and Paddy Considine, who played King Viserys. They play great off of each other. So I'm looking forward to binging the episodes that Matt Smith is in for Doctor Who. So what got you into Doctor Who actually?
Well, I kind of always know about it because it's about as British as the royal family.
Yes, that's the other reason.
It wasn't on when I was young. It had already been cancelled by then. But it's just things that it's in the popular conscience. A Dalek. I know what Daleks are. It's like knowing who Darth Vader is, or R2D2.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew there was this funny man with curly hair and a long scarf. I'd seen him in other things because obviously Tom Baker, he narrated Little Britain. If you ever watched that, that's how I knew of Tom Baker. I'd seen him in other things. It was when the revival came in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the trailer for it. It looked really good, and it was hot on the heels of Buffy, so it was very strong female character, but in the good way. So you see it from the character Rose. She's the one who discovers the Doctor, and he takes her on adventures, and they fight monsters. And it was just a really cool, fun sci-fi. Nothing too dark. You could watch it with all the family. And and everybody did, and it became a ritual every Saturday night. We watched it, and I watched it with my nephews and my niece and my nan. We all watched it, got completely hooked, and it kept going and going, and then David Tennant got involved. And I think it's towards the end of Tennant where America started waking up. Because I think it was around the time Matt Smith started, the Harry Potter stuff was finishing. And it was like people needed something cool and magical and, that kind of fantasy thing. So loads of people jumped on board. And obviously Matt Smith being quite a young Doctor. And having the beautiful Karen Gillan as his companion, a lot of people got into that and really liked it. And it was just fun. It was just good sci-fi adventures. Plenty of, you could go back in time, you could go in the future, you can see aliens. Sometimes the aliens were a bit dodgy, but it didn't matter because we didn't have the budget that you lot are. We didn't have the budget of like Star Wars and things, but it didn't matter because that was part of the charm, and also because the writing was so good. It's like the old Star Trek,
I was just about to mention that. Yeah, that's like the effects.
It didn't matter because you were that. You were rooting for the characters. So then I thought, well, I'll go back and I'll watch, what they call the classic era, see how it all started. And some of it is very difficult because it started in the 60s. It was black and white. very, you can tell the filming in a set, you know, that kind of thing. But you can see and it was like foreshadowing of it. It was quite a progressive show. And what
Mhm.
really makes me laugh, you know, now the woke activists have taken over, um, the show was created by Canadian Sydney Newman, who was working
Oh.
over here. He was like in charge of kind of like he would be like the big cheese, like the corporation.
Mhm.
It was set up by Verity Lambert, who was one of the first producers in TV over here. And the director was Boris Hussein, who is a gay Indian man. Obviously, we didn't find that out till later, because, you know, people didn't care. But again, and, you know, like, well, how much more progressive can you get? And guess what? They were talented
Mhm.
and they had a vision. And it absolutely snowballed. They got the right actors for the job. Got some brilliant writers in. I mean, Douglas Adams wrote some episodes in the 70s.
I read all his books.
And you can imagine they're just as funny. Whereas, you know, there were some really scary ones, and there were really like gothic horror,
Mhm.
thriller. We had this woman back in the 70s and 80s called Mary Whitehouse, and she used to just complain all the time about, you know, it's scaring children and Doctor Who should be cancelled off air. And and then that was good because it went, oh, we're doing it right then. And yeah, just I love it. It's the most bizarre TV show because obviously it changes its lead every few years, and
Mhm.
most cases it gets it right. Sometimes it might take a bit of getting used to, but the premise is the same. You know, he has a companion or more than one, travels in the TARDIS, fights for the good. As you know, during the modern era, it got a bit more Star Wars. There's more explosions and action, but still the stories were good until 2017.
Oh Lord.
He well,
Before
and it
the
got
dark times.
and it got you know. Yes, it was. You saw where it was going with Star Wars. You saw where it was going with Star Trek. Oh, yes, it
Mhm.
still happened. You know, it happened to us. And again, it was a gender change for the sake of a gender change. It wasn't a creative decision. Yeah, there's nothing in the law that says that the Doctor can't be a woman because he is an alien who regenerates. So, like all the cells in his body, he's got two hearts.
Mhm.
Is usually stronger and a bit faster than the average human. So theoretically, yes, okay. But what does it achieve? What, you know, it's not going to add anything. So he's got boobs and a vagina. It's not, and it did absolutely nothing except just some really horrible dialogue. Somebody says, "Oh, you can't be the Doctor. I've read the file. It's a man." And she goes, "I've had an upgrade." And you're just like, oh,
Oh,
oh.
it's so cringe.
But yeah, again, a companion's not suddenly not the best actors for the job.
Mhm.
Tick boxes. Are really, really insulting. In fact, there was a young actor called Tosin Cole. I think he's doing so. He's got work in America. He's doing something else, and I'm interested to see, you know, if he can actually act because he was basically a supporting actor. And in one story, he has to suck his thumb, and it's just
What?
so degrading
What?
for the actor. Yeah, he contracts this virus, and
Mhm.
he's got to crouch down like in the fetal position and suck his thumb. And I'm just like, and this is you know, challenging stereotypes. Go, oh, we good because we've got a black man as a companion. There's been black companions before, but apparently not before 2017.
Mhm.
And it also got dyspraxia, and again, it was another a tick box because it never came up in another story. It just like, oh, he's got this, he's got that, and again, it's just attributes. Like, no, we want to know what his character is. Why is he traveling with the doctor? How is he going to change?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, you could have done something brilliant with dyspraxia because a large part of the show is running away from monsters. You know, if you can't coordinate your body, you're going to get captured. You're going to be put into danger. What a brilliant, thing to explore. But no, uh, they did a really insulting
Mhm.
episode where they met Rosa Parks.
I heard about that.
Oh, it was so cringe. I know, the premise was good. Yeah, let's teach kids, especially
Mhm.
British kids and other kids across the world who might not know who she is.
Right.
Let's highlight it. But it was done in such a way where it was kind of the doctor was there on the bus, and it was their fault because all the companions were there. One of the companions, Graham, he was the man who wanted the seat, and I was like, no, 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 you just don't insert. Like, can't you see what you're doing to this historical event? You can't, because in past we've they've gone to see like a lot of historical figures,
Right.
but it's played out. They're like they've gone and met William Shakespeare, but it's all played out very differently. They didn't directly cause, whatever historical event happened. I was like, you don't. And again, it was just wokeism
Mhm.
too far. Like you couldn't just let it play out. You had to be there in the thick of the action. Um, and then the following one was called Arachnids in the UK, and it was basically giant spiders terrorizing a town in England, my town in England, by the way. So that
Hmm.
was really embarrassing. I was like, finally, my city's going to be in Doctor Who, and they're like, oh, I can never watch this stuff ever again. And they've got oh gosh, what's his name? The guy who played Mr. Big in Six and the City.
Oh, Chris Noth?
Chris North, yes. And he was basically Donald Trump, and he'd come to my city to he'd built this hotel, and he was dumping radioactive waste, because it was an environmental thing as well. It had created these like mutated spiders,
Mhm.
and they were basically dying because they grew too big. They were suffocating. So Chris Noth shoots the mother spider to put it out of its misery, and the doctor's going, "I can't believe you've just shot him. You are evil." And this big like anti-gun tirade, which is like, no, this is not what we're tuning in for. We don't want an anti-gun, preaching lesson. And then and bear in mind the doctor's supposed to be this really super intelligent alien. Her plan was to lure the spiders into Donald Trump's panic room with hip hop music because it's got a good beat and the vibrations, and they're all going to lock them in so they could all suffocate together, like, because that's really humane. And I'm like, how did this get past editors, producers? I just, oh, it was so embarrassing. And then at that point, a lot of Americans were just like, no.
I I just you know, it's funny
Oh,
because it's like I almost feel like using the term woke is it's like it's not what its original intent was. It's like with woke, it was pretty much bringing to people's awareness past
mhm.
injustices, kind of like to rectify things. Now it just seems to be a catch-all for all the crazy stuff that people want to put into entertainment, and it's not entertainment. It's like, it's like it's preaching to people in a bad way. Like, it's not even about entertainment. It's just like about bashing us with some kind, with some kind of agenda. And it's like they did it to Star Wars, they did it to Star Trek. Granted, I didn't know a whole lot about Doctor Who, but I did know that Doctor Who was distinctively British. So when I heard that was happening too, I'm just like, it's just ridiculous. And it's so sad, like, to see that happen to a franchise that's so beloved by
It's
so many people.
and it's insulting. Well, it's insulting to the viewers. It's insulting for everything that came before, and obviously, in the second season, it got even worse because they always double down. And basically, the BBC were that embarrassed that they'd had 12 white men play the Doctor. They wrote this kind of prequel of sorts, what changed it. So, in fact, the first Doctor wasn't the first Doctor. There was another regeneration cycle,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a much more diverse set of doctors. And it all started with a little black girl, and it and completely changed the origin. So he wasn't a Time Lord from Gallifrey.
Mm-hmm.
Gallifrey was this little black girl in this portal who gets picked up by this woman on Gallifrey, and she's a scientist. And one day she injures herself. She falls off a cliff, like you do, regenerates into another diverse girl. And this scientist, who's supposed to be a mother figure,
Mm-hmm.
decides to experiment on her and keep killing her. So she regenerates and regenerates and regenerates till she learns the power, and then the Time Lords steal that power. It's not subtle at all, is it? What? So these white Time Lords, I just like, no, just that would be like, it's like changing the origin of Captain Kirk or Luke Skywalker.
Mm-hmm.
And the show's called Doctor Who. It's supposed to be a mystery. We're not supposed to know his origin.
Mm-hmm.
All we know is he was a Time Lord. He ran away in a TARDIS because he wanted to go on adventures. That's all we need to know. And yeah, it's just really, one, it's just lazy. And I just think it's really insulting for anybody who wants to watch it. I don't think anybody wants to think, oh, that's really interesting how Doctor Who started.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for putting a black girl at the start of it, because that makes me feel so sane, because there's never been black people in sci-fi. And yeah, just and same thing with the gay and the lesbian stuff, and it's all just inserted in. And again, nothing happened before 2017.
No, it's like nothing ever existed, before. There wasn't diversity before 2017. Well, let's put it this way. I think it was diversity, but not the type of diversity they wanted.
Yeah.
They just want to, I say, like, check a box just to check a box, and that does nothing. Like, I remember telling somebody on Twitter, it's like, oh, I should just be happy just because you slapped a black face on it. The character's crap, but I should be happy, right?
Yeah.
You don't think that's even the least bit, insulting? Well, at
Yeah.
least it's diversity. I'm like, if that's your diversity, you can keep it.
Yeah, it's like this with the Little Mermaid, which is quite frankly ridiculous, because so these little black girls can finally believe that they can be a mermaid, like, because they have to see themselves exactly on the screen. I'm just like, do you know how many people there are that are short with glasses on? And I think there's one, Velma. I can watch Scooby Doo in and think, I've been seen, and I'm not even as clever as Velma. It's tokenism. It's insulting. And God bless you for being able to laugh it off, but it is really offensive. And this box ticking its ways. To me, it feels like it's almost like Pokemon, got to collect 'em all. When you look at like the Witcher Blood Origin, you're like,
Oh,
right,
that
age,
was a
oh,
pile of
ginger,
dog crap, wasn't it?
it's just disabled. And then,
I know. It's like, okay. It's like, I'm not laughing just to laugh, but it's just like, if you're going to bring someone in there who, like, say, is deaf, shouldn't it be some kind of mystical way to reveal that? Like, even if they were like a mind reader, or like, say, even if they tried to speak and you heard the words in your head, at least make it mystical. Don't make it like, oh, they're using ASL, American Sign Language. It's like, oh God, are you freaking kidding me with this right now? I mean, wouldn't it be cool if they couldn't, they couldn't hear, but the words would materialize in front of you? It's like,
yeah.
give us something that's fantasy related. So it's not like a disability per se. It's like an additional power that they have. When I saw that, I'm just like, you talk about phoning it in,
Yeah.
and then they killed her.
I know.
I said, if you're gonna smoke something before you write, please smoke the good stuff, because this
I
was
know.
not it.
But that's all that they think. That's all they've got to do. And it was same with Doctor Who. It's the big thing. We'll just change the gender, but you haven't done anything creative with it. You've still got to write a good story, and it would have been really interesting. Okay, how
Mhm.
is this character going to act now she's female? Because it would put a different dynamic. Probably a more protective, maternal. Um, but no, that's all I've got to do. Oh, they'll love it. They'll eat it up because it's a woman. No, we won't.
No, we won't. Not at all. Not at all. I tell you, it's something else. But what are you watching and reading that you're enjoying? And we'll kind of end on that note, on half note.
Okay. I finished watching Wednesday. I
Ah,
quite enjoyed that. Again, it's something I can watch with my kids, and it's. I suppose that there's a tiny bit of work, but I can. It doesn't distract from the story for me. I like the actress. I like the
I do
characters.
too. Jenny Ortega is really good.
I mean, I grew up with the '90s films, so like Christina Ricci will always be
Yep.
popular. But I do like Jenny Ortega's take on it, and my kids like her, and I kind of feel it's kind of like a Buffy series for like the next generation.
Mm,
I can see it. It's kind. There's like a craze, and a lot of people doing the dances and wanting to look like her,
hmm
and the internet melted because there's going to be a series too. So there's a real like fire about it, and I like that. And again, she's a good actress.
hmm
She's not just there for the sake of it. Because I did wonder when I thought, oh God, it's a spin off. What's it going to be like? But yeah,
hmm
honestly, I was really pleasantly surprised. What else have I got? Well, I was going to start the Witcher series 2, but I'm not going to bother. I've only watched the first season. No, what a disappointment that was. No, if it, I don't want to see Henry Cavill get treated like that in his own show. I adore
Mm-mm.
Henry Cavill. I really want him to be the next James Bond. I really think he could do that because
Oh, that would be
it's possible.
amazing.
He can do the stunt work and everything, but he's still suave and he's charming. And unfortunately, I can't influence anybody.
Granted, Pierce Bronson is my favorite Bond. Sean Connery, that's GOAT level. You can't touch that. He's
Oh
just
yeah.
the quintessential Bond. But Pierce Brosnan is like my all-time favorite Bond.
Mm.
Henry Cavill, if they cast him as Bond, He might beat out Pierce Brosnan for me.
It just seems obvious to me. It's a no-brainer. You'd make so much money, and
I know.
nobody wants to make money
You
anymore.
know, you're right. They don't. It's like they don't want to make like even the Bond franchises. Like I grew up watching the Bond franchises, watching the Bond movies on repeat on Saturdays because my parents could afford cable, so I'd watch channels that we had. And I would see like the James Bond movies. I absolutely loved them. That was one of my, I say was because of what they did with the last Bond
Yes.
movie. And I was disgusted
I
with
wouldn't watch
it.
it. I've not watched it.
I'm not, I
But
refuse,
if
I
I don't
refuse
watch
to watch
it, it
it.
hasn't happened. You see, I did that with Terminator, Dark
Dark
Fate as
Fate,
well.
that I haven't watched Rise of Skywalker. I refuse to
No,
watch that
right,
film.
no, I wouldn't watch it. Obviously, I know what happens, but yeah, I just think no. I just, I'm not going to waste my money. I paid twice to see The Last Jedi because the first time I went, it just been released, and I thought it was going to be. It's like we're going to see Luke. It's going to be exciting. I, I even got words, but I had to. I watched it again because I didn't understand what I'd actually watched. I was like, did I fall asleep? Did I have an hallucination? Or,
Mm-hmm.
it just didn't. Yeah, I couldn't process it. Like some parts were good, and then I watched it, and I'm like, oh, they really went there, didn't they? I'm like, no.
I've never, I mean, I watched it on demand because like life got in the way. I couldn't go see it. So I'd actually gone to see Solo, actually used my loyalty points at the movie theater to see it. And I think that and $2. And when that movie was over, I wanted my $2 back
I
and my
know.
loyalty points back because I'm
And your
just like,
time.
yes, and my time. Because I'm just like, that was a Star Wars movie. I'm like, okay, maybe it was a one-off. Maybe it was new territory. Okay, I'll go back and I'll watch The Last Jedi. So I rented The Last Jedi.
Mhm,
I had never been so pissed at a Star Wars movie
mhm.
ever in a bad way. Like I was upset with The Empire Strikes Back, but that was in a good way. That was in a good way. It's like things got worse for the characters, but the story got better and better as it went along. Did not happen with The Last Jedi. And by the end, I turned it off and I didn't look at anything Star Wars for like a year because I couldn't believe that. Like you, it's like they went there. They really really went there. Luke isn't going to wake up and he's like in the cave on Dagobah or something like that. It's not some
I was,
alternate reality. It's not
I,
some
I
fever
was
dream or
waiting.
something.
Yeah, I was waiting for the twist, and it never came. I'm like,
No.
it's gonna end like that. And I'm like, it's like I'm thinking, why are they doing that? Why is he saying that? Why is Yoda setting fire?
It's like none of these people were who we knew
Oh,
from all of the previous movies. It's like, who are these people? I don't know who you are. Tell me this is some kind of implant or something, just some rational reason as to
thinking
why.
about that, I've just remembered something else about Doctor Who. That the Doctor is this really empathetic character. Humans are like his favourite species, and with the Jodie Whittaker Doctor, one of her companions, Graham, is a cancer survivor, and there's an episode where they're reliving nightmares, and Graham's nightmare is, his cancer's going to come back, and he tells the Doctor, and this is what she says in the scene. I can't think of anything reassuring to say right now, so I'm going to walk over here and I'll come back to you when I think of something I should have said to you. And Graham's like, oh, okay. I'm glad we had this chat, Doctor. And I'm like, oh, because she's socially awkward. And I'm like, you're an alien. Like, you're not so, humans are socially awkward. Like, that, again, that is just antithetical to the Doctor. You don't just dismiss somebody's cat. And that was another thing where I was just, I was so pissed that this just sounds so British. I wrote a letter to the BBC. We did there was a, and after that I cancelled my television license because we have to pay for the privilege of being preached at in this country.
Oh goodness.
But yeah, I did. There was because obviously like the BBC supposed to have standards and they've got a complaints department and
Hmm.
got about loads of people, like thousands of complaints, and you just got this fluff piece. We take it very seriously, and like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You will do when I cancel my TV license.
And the thing is, even here, it's like you think the BBC, and it's just like, these really, really great, specials and and everything. I even had BBC America for a while so I could watch my Britcoms, which I freaking
Mhm.
love. Oh my God. Absolutely Fabulous is my favorite. It
Oh,
is my all-time favorite. I love that show.
she's my spirit animal.
She's so funny. I mean, talk about diversity. I love the episode where she got to where she found out that her where Adina found out that Safi was gonna have a baby and that the husband was black.
Yeah.
And she starts like freaking out. And Patsy's like, it's still a baby. She's like, no, 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 I don't think you understand. A biracial baby is the best fashion accessory a woman like me in my position could ever have. I was in tears. I said that makes perfect
All of it. Oh, yeah. When the BBC used to do comedy and could laugh at itself.
Yes.
Oh,
I don't know what it is
sadly,
now.
that hasn't happened since Brexit. I'm afraid it's just.
Well, they need to get back to that
Oh,
because
God!
darn
Well,
it.
I want to rewatch that now. We'll have to do an absolutely fabulous stream.
Oh my God, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. You gave me an idea because daggone it, I love that Britcom. Granted, I used to watch a little bit of Monty Python here,
Mhm,
like here and there. So I love Monty Python, but I kind of watch it like here and there.
mhm,
And some friends of mine watched Red Dwarf. I
mhm,
think I saw The Vicar of Dibley a couple of
mhm.
times. I think I saw Call the Midwife a couple of times. But Absolutely Fabulous was the one where I had to watch every single episode.
Yeah.
Because it was just so hilarious and my friends would watch it and we talk about it. It was just great. And of course, now I'm watching the IT Crowd as I work in
Yeah,
IT.
that's another good. Oh,
Freaking hysterical.
it's right because I kind of missed it when it was first on, but I had friends and relatives used to tell me about it and quote bits to me, and obviously there's so many memes about it, and I was laughing at the memes. I'm like, no, I've got to go back and watch it, and now it's just even more funny because now I get it even more, and yeah, it's just relatable comedy.
Totally relatable comedy. And I tell people it's like I've grown up watching Britcoms and
Mhm,
have just loved them for like ages. For me, that's just like the epitome of comedy. Unfortunately, it's been hit with wokeness now, but it was just fun to just watch and just absolutely just laugh at. One of my favorites.
we need to do more of this. Just laugh at ourselves, laugh at each other.
Hmm. We really,
Stop
really,
taking things so seriously. Everybody, everything. Uh,
yeah, it's just like relax. That's why I liked watching granted Dave Chappelle's stuff and isn't as edgy as it used to be, but his Netflix specials, I've forgotten how funny it is to just laugh at stuff,
mhm.
just to do it. I really think if we all got back to that and just was able to laugh at everybody, then things would just be better. No one has a right to not be offended.
Mm.
But like
Well,
that.
like say it's offence is taken, not given.
Hmm. Exactly. Exactly. But you get some people who forget that.
Right.
Uh, well, my dear, this has been an absolutely amazing, amazing session. I'm gonna have to tag back up with you with some Brit comms.
Definitely.
That's
Oh,
like
yeah.
absolutely
Well, two of
fabulous.
us. It's been quite the roller coaster. We've done the monarchy, slavery, and then absolutely fabulous.
That's how it works on this show. We just kind of go in all kinds of ways, all kinds of circles. It's like it's something for everybody. If your topic hasn't been hit,
Absolutely.
just wait. It'll come around.
Yeah, honestly, thank you so much. In fact, I know we've been trying to sort this out for a while, and yeah, I'm glad we got to do it. And yeah, I hope this is the first of many because I've had an absolute blast. Thank you.
Oh, well, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. And it definitely will not. Got to have you, got to have you back. Well, where can folks find you, Story Eyed Girl, if they want to follow you on social media?
Okay, you can find me on Twitter at Starry Eyed Who. I'm also on Facebook, and you can usually find me on the Spacebook channel on YouTube, where I am part of a panel of Doctor Who fans and enthusiasts. Just I'm kind of slightly obsessive, as you are when you're a geek, and that's called Type 40, and that's like live streams, pre-recorded videos, and also there's a podcast as well. So yes, please check us out.
Yes, yes, please do. I will put all the details in the description box of the video so you can please check out what Starry Eyed Girl is up to. So, thank you so much, my dear, again for being on. Cannot wait to have you on, on the show again. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. And thank you all so much for watching. And we will see you next time.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Take care.